It's the greatest mystery in literary history. A divisive question with highly contested answers. Who was the writer behind the pen name William Shakespeare? Welcome to Don't Quill the Messenger. Here's your host, Stephen Sable.
Hello there, fellow Quillers. Hey, thanks for being here. And let me start off with my apologies for such a short and brief episode this week. My only excuses are that I have been tremendously busy working on a do-it-yourself bathroom remodel of our downstairs bathroom. And as these things often do, it has become more of a project than I first expected. But I am back on track now, and it is soon to be completed, much to my wife's great expectation. And that said, I did allow some scheduling with my guests to fall through the cracks over the last couple of weeks, and I had one very special guest who just needed a couple of extra weeks to be ready to record with me. But I promise you, she will be well worth the wait, and our recording date is set. That's the only teaser I will give you. But you have asked for her. She has much to share, and she'll be coming up in a very near future episode. In the meantime, I do have a few updates for you this time around. I'd like to start off with some long overdue shout outs, thank yous, and attention getters. First off, I hope you are paying attention to the work of our previous guest, Luc Prodromou, who has been busy with more live YouTube events and has several posted that you can now view at your leisure. Many of his presentations are sort of a forum style with other guests and commentators that make them very worthy of viewing. So check him out and what he has been doing. It may be time to get him back in here as a guest to discuss his latest work. Next, a shout out to another Greek fellow Quiller, Leonidas Kazanthios. Leonidas, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Kazanthios? Kazanthios sounds great to me anyway. Sounds like a Greek god, doesn't it? Kazanthios. Anyway, he's currently working on getting a film produced about the life of Edward de Vere as Shakespeare. The film details events in Edward's biography and then contrasts them with scenes from the plays to demonstrate the autobiographical nature of the works. And I have to tell you, many of you know this, I have long felt that this is the best possible way to change the paradigm here. I have always envisioned a scene between William Cecil and his children that sort of morphs before the audience's eyes into lines from Hamlet. Or perhaps a scene between Edward and Elizabeth arguing over the fate of the young Henry Wriothesley that morphs before the audience's eyes into scenes between Oberon and Titania arguing over the changeling child. And I think that this is a great opportunity. And Leonidas, I commend you for your efforts. I hope it's going well for you. Best wishes to you, and can't wait to see a film of this nature. And I've always, if you all remember, I've said an HBO series or a Showtime series would just crush this story because truth is better than fiction. Our friend, and speaking of fiction, our friend and author Robert Boog has been back at it again, this time with a new book titled The Trial of William Shakespeare, a Love Story. I haven't yet read Bob's latest book, but it's a modern-day crime drama of sorts that uses elements of artificial intelligence and some time-bending science fiction to tell the tale of Shakespeare's true identity and some of the reasons behind the subterfuge. This is yet another way I think we can advance the paradigm shift. Historical fiction. It is the absolute hottest book genre in the world right now, continuously spawning television series and film series that generate tons of fan research into whatever era of history the writer can fascinate readers with upon the page. We just recently binged watched a Netflix series called The Horror, which is also historical fiction based on real life accounts and the journals and writings of the captains of two icebreaker ships that were trying to navigate a passage through the waters of Greenland. And fascinating film series, fascinating story, obviously dramatized and fictionalized to suit Hollywood's needs, but based on real life accounts and real life people. And that's the type of thing that is just crushing the ratings all over the world right now. And so, Bob, good luck to you with the new book. And again, I think it's a wonderful genre to dip into, and for us authorship skeptics to really embrace and take a real hard look at how we can help promote those who have, ventured into this area of historical fiction with the authorship mystery. Imagine, if you will, if Clare Beauchamp Randall Fraser had time traveled back to Elizabethan England instead of 18th century Scotland. Imagine where we might be today. And if you don't know who Clare Beauchamp Randall Fraser is, well, then you have been an outlander in the world of historical fiction. There's my clue. Here's a shout out to fellow Quiller Jen Swan, who sent me a couple of links a while back. And I know I apologize to all of you, but I do tell you, I get to you. I get to your emails. I do read them. I do pay attention. I do look at the attachments. I have moments where I set aside on my calendar, this is going to be Quiller Day. And I go through and I take a look at all the different fun things that you guys send my way. And Jen sent me quite some time back a couple of links to some news articles that she had been researching back into the deep, dark archives of newspaper publications when journalism was still a real career and not a bunch of talking heads and pundits and wannabe entertainment celebrities pretending to be news personalities. But don't get me started. As a former journalist, I am just appalled at what has happened to what used to be the Fourth Estate. But that's another story for another time. Anyway, thank you, Jen. She sent me a copy of an 1895 news article that was printed in the Retford and Worksop Herald and North Notts Advertiser. Whew, that's a mouthful for a news publication. Retford and Worksop Herald and North Notts Advertiser. Say that. I'm going to use that as a new tongue twister for actors to warm up their diction. Retford and Worksop Herald and North Notts Advertiser. Retford and Worksop Herald and North Notts Advertiser. That's a good one. Anyway, this article speaks about some paintings that were being revealed together from the collection of the Duke of Portland at Welbeck Abbey and his estates in London. Listed together in this particular order are these three very noteworthy portraits. Robert Cecil, Edward de Vere, who is listed as the poet, and Henry Roseley, who is listed as, and I quote here, the friend of Shakespeare. Not a friend, the friend. So here's this collection of paintings that had been acquired and curated to some degree, I guess, by the Duke of Portland, held at Welbeck Abbey, as well as his estates in London. Why he was gathering historical portraits, we don't know. I haven't looked into that. There's obviously some more research that could be done there about who the Duke of Portland was and why in what would have been the late 19th century is when these paintings were they were being allowed to be shown and then reprinted for those who wanted lithographs. I'm going to guess at the time because 1895. Anyway, there's a long list of portraits there, but these particular three were listed in order and together in the list. And again, they list Edward de Vere. They designate him in the news article, Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford, the poet, and Henry Wriothesley, the friend of Shakespeare. Just an interesting little tidbit. Why? Why did they list those three men together? Why are those three paintings put together by the collector, the Duke of Portland? What did he know about the lives and fates of those three men that he gathered those three portraits and kept them together? Why is Edward de Vere identified as Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford, the poet? Not just the Earl of Oxford, not the Queen's champion jouster, not the Italianate Earl, not the reckless playboy, the poet. Very important and very interesting. And then, of course, Henry Wriothesley, the friend of Shakespeare, the friend, as not in the only, but perhaps definitely the most important. You can find that article on page 8 of the Saturday, February 16th, 1895 edition of the Retford and Worksop Herald and North Notts Advertiser. She also sent me a clip from the Newcastle Weekly Chronicle dated February 4th, 1893, edition with the title Fashions in England, which was extracted from an old London journal of 133 years earlier, dated 1760. 1760. The London Journal being reprinted here under Fashions in England for the Newcastle Weekly Chronicle, February 4th, 1893. It mentions William, Earl of Pembroke, donning knit stockings after first seeing a pair from a shop recreated from an Italian merchant of Mantua. And that is immediately followed by this quote. Edward Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, was the first that introduced embroidered gloves and perfume into England, which he brought from Italy. He presented the Queen with a pair of perfumed gloves, and her portrait was painted with them upon her hands. London Journal, 1760. But of course we know that, don't we? From Much Ado About Nothing, set in Messina, Italy, where the young hero, daughter to Leonato, governor of Messina, tells us, "These gloves the Count sent me, they are an excellent perfume." I'm currently working on Rod Carley's new book titled Ruff, R-U-F-F. It's a clever play on words when you consider the ruffled collars of the Elizabethan age. Carley is another author, Canadian author, who understands that the key to the Shakespeare authorship mystery is the perfect historical fiction say that 5 times fast, Mr. Tongue Twister. The perfect historical fiction piece that captures a wide audience. P.S. That also means it needs to include a healthy dose of sex to make it realistically appealing. And there's no short of that in Mr. Carley's book. It has all the intrigue, all of the steaminess, and all of the hallmarks of a great murder mystery. And there are no shortage of any of these in the works of Shakespeare or the life of Edward de Vere, for that matter, especially the sex part. The man did father multiple children from multiple women. Whether or not you believe the historical or theoretical versions of his life, those facts are true. He definitely knew how to make babies. He was good with the ladies and could be the envy of many modern-day celebrities who have also fathered several children with multiple women. The list is too long to give you examples, but I'm sure you have one in your head already. Whether it be a Hollywood mogul, whether it be a multi-billionaire mega businessman, or whether it be some sports star, Edward de Vere set the tone. Multiple kids by multiple baby mamas. Thank you to Lauren Luthwaite up there in Canada, who contacted me about Rod's work, and I'm looking forward to getting through the book and getting Rod here on the program as a guest. Also from our Canadian friends is a pitch I received about the works of Peter Derbyshire. It's spelled Derbyshire, but I'm going to guess that it's Derbyshire. Peter has a book out called The Dead Hamlets. It's a modern piece of murder mystery fiction based around the authorship mystery. What happens when a prominent figure gets too close to the truth and threatens the establishment? Is he suddenly marked for murder? Put that storyline into the Shakespeare authorship mystery and you get a spectacular backdrop for a unique tale. And Peter, I'm looking forward to reading your new book as well. What I'm getting at here, fellow Quillers, is historical fiction, murder mystery fiction based around the greatest literary mystery, the Shakespeare authorship mystery. These are all wonderful genres. These are all wonderful pieces that are being put out there into our world for readers and viewers to pick up and find and to help change the paradigm. And I swear to you, in my heart of hearts, I believe this is the way. All the scholarly stuff in the world is important, and it needs to be out there and available for when the listeners, the readers, get their interests piqued and become intrigued by this mystery. But we need the tag, we need the hook, we need the lure that brings them in. And what this program can't do, hopefully some of our guests can do through their writings and their creative work. So kudos to all of you, and thank you for all that you're doing to bring more attention. Our recent guest, Chris Summers, wrote to me to share a new website and latest version of his work, which you can now find at chrissummersauthor.com.au. You remember Dr. Chris down under was our guest about his works and his book. You can find more information at his new website that he has now revamped and made more accessible and more interesting for those of you who like to find out more. Go to chrissummersauthor.com.au, and that's Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Summers, S-U-M-M-E-R-S, author.com.au. Remember, he's our guest who provided his position on Anne Hathaway as the potential true author. So if you'd like to find out more about that, go visit his site. I purposely placed this one right here because it is deep enough into this brief episode that I know by now you're truly listening at this point. Put down your garden shovels, take a break from that morning run, set down the dumbbell, put down the cleaning rag, pull over to the side of the road. You'll need to hear this one. Fellow Quiller Catherine Sharp. Catherine writes to me on occasion and most recently paid me a very beautiful compliment by saying she enjoys listening to the episodes during long car rides. Catherine, I am just tickled by that, and I want to thank you so much. I have always believed that a long car ride with someone is a very special way to sometimes learn more about them than you ever wanted to know. With the very first thing you learn being whether or not you can or ever want to spend that much time trapped with the same person in a confined space ever again. So thank you, Catherine. I am happy to spend time in the car with you and any other fellow Quillers out there who are so willing to allow me to interrupt their car rides, whether it's your morning commute to work or your afternoon commute home, or your long car rides on a road trip of any kind, or whatever it may happen to be. If you want me with you, I want to be there, and I want to thank you so much for inviting me into your space, whatever that space happens to be. At least we know we have something incredibly intriguing in common to talk about, and a topic we can discuss at length without ever running out of aspects to consider as the time of the drive disappears beneath us. Bring it on. My wife often cautions people in our lives against getting me started on this subject in any space, let alone on a long car ride. And as my dear friend Earl Showerman has always said, we are Obnoxfordians, and we're proud of it. Speaking of Dr. Earl, Catherine has called attention to another episode and has asked for a future episode featuring our most common guest, Dr. Earl, to have him speak about his experience as a lifelong learning instructor. And many of you know, Earl has mentioned that before, that he teaches lifelong learning classes and has for many, many years. And Catherine would like for me to ask Earl to come on and do an episode about that experience, about how you do it, how to prepare, the experience of it, the enrichment of the students, etc., the enrichment of the educator who's teaching the class. And I'm sure Earl has some great stories to share about that. And I believe he's taught another previous guest, Tom Woosnam, some of his tricks of the trade. And Tom is now teaching lifelong learning courses on the authorship mystery as well. Ooh, what if I can get both men in the same room to discuss this topic together? Lucky me, they both live just 40 minutes drive from here. I'll put a girdle around the world in 40 minutes. Actually, I think I messed that quote up. I think it's Earth. Put a girdle around the Earth in 40 minutes. The reason why that's important is because it demonstrates that Shakespeare understood, at least at the time that he was writing A Midsummer Night's Dream, that the Earth was indeed round and it could be circumvented. Look at that, though. Another wonderful lightning bolt moment. I am going to get on that. I'm going to contact Earl and Tom and see about getting them both in the same location and doing an episode on their experiences teaching lifelong learning. Hopefully they can inspire some of you to find Osher Lifelong Learning Institutes near you, because I know they're all over the place. I don't know more details about that, but they'll be able to share all kinds of details about that. And you'll be able to find one near you perhaps, and you could too become an OLI instructor. I believe they call it OLI. I think it's OLLI. Anyway, they know the details, and we'll get them on and we'll find all that out and share that with you and maybe inspire some more folks. But wow, what a great, cool lightning bolt moment. You've probably heard me speak of lightning bolt moments in the past. In the last episode, you heard me speak about the origins of the lightning bolt argument in my history. Well, a good mock trial competitor has some, or in my case, a lot of theater training. And that's why my high school mock trial coaches recruited me. But here's an admission in relation to the last episode. In essence, they knew they could recruit a smart enough young man with theatrical experience, then coach me on the delivery and provide me the script to speak. And that would be enough to win over the voting jury. As long as I didn't have to go off script, as long as I didn't have to answer any difficult questions, as long as I didn't have to provide any follow-ups, if I could learn the lines, learn the delivery, and deliver it, I could sell the story. And it won me an award. Go figure. Well, later on in my future career, not as a lawyer, as my mother hoped and prayed I would be someday, but as a theatrical artistic director, I took that concept of the lightning strike, lightning striking an accused criminal, and I converted it into lightning striking my artistic brains at time during rehearsals mainly, when I'd be sitting there watching the actors rehearsing a scene, delivering the lines, and all of a sudden, and actors know this about me, on regular occasions in rehearsal, I will jump from my seat with an, wait, lightning bolt, do this, go here, change the blocking to this, find this nuance in the delivery and bring that with it instead, right? I call those my lightning bolt moments. Well, they happen here during episodes of the show as well, don't they? You've heard them a lot. Those of you who are regular Quillers, you're aware of the many lightning bolt moments that we've had with guests where I say, oh, there's a great idea, we should do that. Or, hey, here's a great idea for a future project. Some of those lightning bolt moments have actually come to fruition. And you've all seen that happen. It's wonderful when it does too. Often those lightning bolt moments will happen during late night conversations with my wife. who is indeed my muse. And she can often inspire all kinds of wonderful ideas and thoughts just in the middle of a conversation with her. I'm most often struck with that kind of lightning late at night in conversation with Annie, when all of a sudden I'll turn to her and shout, "That's it! That's the idea!" Or "That's the solution! Thank you, honey!" And she'll sometimes look at me and say, "Okay, you're welcome, I guess. Not sure what just happened, but so glad to have helped." The point is in this. Sometimes a true and pure confidant is the key to the greatest ideas. Oftentimes, a true muse is best at listening. Oftentimes, a muse inspires. Most often, the muse isn't trying to do anything but give love and support. And bingo, lightning. Anyway, those of you who have been longtime listeners and those of you who are still catching up to past episodes, you know or will find that there have been many of these lightning bolt moments on this show, especially in the middle of episodes, as I mentioned, with certain guests. And some of those have resulted in future episodes. Many have resulted in future projects that have come to life. This latest lightning bolt, a joint episode with Earl and Tom about teaching lifelong learning classes, is a beautiful inspiration from Catherine Sharp. Thank you, Catherine, who just became the muse of this lightning bolt moment that we should have no problem putting together ASAP. So you see, folks, send me those emails. You never know what can happen. Oh, and one more very important note from Catherine. Impetus. Catherine wrote to me to ask, why do I pronounce this word this way? Impetus, as opposed to impetus. Well, here's my answer. Impetus is the origin form of the word impetuous. Is it not? To act with impetus is to be impetuous. And impetus, to me, sounds too much like impotent. I'm definitely getting older, but I just can't bring myself to say that someone bold, someone acting with impetus is suffering from, acting with impotence, impetus. So I'll stick with impetus. The same way I love to say the word hubris when that is an accurate term to use, as opposed to hubris. So thank you again, Catherine, for asking. I'm sure many others may have been out there wondering, why does he say it that way, but didn't want to take the time to write. But that just goes to show you, folks, I'm always willing to hear, listen, and answer to anything you want to send my way. So if you want to take the time to write, fellow Quillers, you can do that by sending an email to contact@don'tquillthepodcast.com, contact@don'tquillthepodcast.com. That's contact@don'tquillthepodcast.com. Because I mean it when I say I answer your emails either in writing or right here on the program. Hey, don't forget also that the annual Jake and Steven episode is not that far away. I know it's only October, but January will be here around the corner, and another anniversary of this wonderful program will be celebrated with that wonderful 6th year anniversary episode. So be sure to write reviews on your favorite podcast streaming platforms, because we're going to need them to counter the statements to the attacks from the establishment. So go out there and write us a great review. Make sure you give us those 5-star ratings on all platforms. Drive us to the top so that when people are looking for something interesting to add to their podcast streaming list, they find us and they join the nation. Getting back to Dr. Earl, we should also schedule an episode where Earl is the guest host. That's only happened once in the history of the program. And I'm going to put it out there to you. The first person who sends me an email naming the only guest host the program has ever had will receive a free item from the Don't Quill the Messenger swag shop. First email that I receive naming the only guest host of Don't Quill the Messenger, the one and only episode where we had a guest host, will receive a free item from the swag shop. Do your research, folks. Find it out. Send me that person's name. And I will acknowledge you right here on the program as the winner. And you'll also receive, as I say, a free item from the swag shop. Anyway, maybe we can get Earl to be a guest host. Maybe he can interview me about directing Shakespeare or about being the host of this program with this awesome Quiller Nation of listeners, or whatever he thinks might be a good episode. That could be fun. There's another lightning bolt moment. See? So shifting gears, I am also going to be contacting an author named Ian Stockdale, who reached out to me recently regarding his book titled Shakespeare, the King James Version, arguing for James I as the true author of the works of Shakespeare. That should be very interesting. I can't recall ever having a Jacobean theorist as a guest, so that is very exciting. And for those of you I know who are saying, whoa, that's preposterous, and some of you maybe even said that about the Anne Hathaway theory, maybe some of you have said that about the North theory, maybe you've said it about the Marlowe theory, maybe you've said it about the Oxford theory, maybe you've said it about any and all of the theories. My point is the fact that all of these theories exists. I believe that the fact that all of these theories exist is a testament to the fact that we don't know the full truth and that this is a topic worth continuous examination. And I think it's intellectually dishonest and disingenuous to claim that the truth is the truth and that's all we know and that's the facts. It was Shakespeare of Stratford, done deal, period. And I think the fact that there are so many other candidates, there's no other writer for whom there are this many theories and candidates, which I believe in itself is evidence that the story we've been fed is false. And the only way we get to the truth is by uncovering every stone. And maybe the rabbit hole into one potential candidate or another leads nowhere. Maybe it leads nowhere with regards to the evidence for that candidate. But along the path, along the search, along the deep dive digging, there are other clues, other artifacts to be found that point to the true author. And why not then continue to dig? Why not then continue to examine every candidate proposed, if for no other reason than to eliminate them from the picture and perhaps uncover something under a new rock that nobody found before because they just dismissed that candidate right out of hand. So let's get Ian on the show and let's hear what he has to say about his King James version of Shakespeare. Next up, Jeanine Clark, who never disappoints with her many suggestions, wants us to do a bonus watch along of The King, which is the new reimagining of the Henry V story. She'd like us to do a watch along and talk about the differences between the Bard's script and the film. And I have to say, sorry, Jeanine, I think that one is a stretch for any true Shakespearean. The film is good, but it is so far from the play that you can only reference Shakespeare's play as a source of the popularity of Henry V in modern times to have supplied enough impetus to the production crew to make a biopic. A biopic? A biopic? A biopic? A biopic? Which is it? How is that one pronounced? Anyway, my point is, I think the reason why they made The King, and why a movie like that could be so popular today, is thanks to the fact that Shakespeare's Henry V is such a popular play. But I don't think they really have much in common other than the main character. And of course, some historical accounts in them. But of course, we know that our guy also embellished and dramatized and basically Hollywoodized many of his historical dramas. And he did so as well with Henry V, because he was using these pieces as propaganda material to promote and support the English monarchy and his country, especially in the face of all the threats that it was up against at that time of his life. But, Jeanine, I will say, I am keeping the Black Adder suggestion in my file for now. And that's all I'll say about that today. Thanks to Dean Bradley for your kind words, particularly about the recent episode with Diana Price. And thanks to Diana, who sent me a very beautiful follow-up email about her experience as a guest on the program. Diana, I'm so glad that you felt so welcomed and that you enjoyed our conversation. As I mentioned in our email setting it all up, and as I tell all my guests, it really isn't an interview. It's just a conversation. We like to keep things here very informal and conversational in style. I think that's part of the style of the show and part of my flair as the host of the show, I'd like to think. And based on the comments I received from you fellow Quillers, I think you agree. And Diana, I want you to know you are welcome back here anytime. The listeners responded with exceptional praise for the episode, most especially Dean, who went so far as to say that it is his new favorite episode that he will be using to invite new listeners to the podcast and to join the Quiller Nation. Thank you, Dean. We can all only hope that more of our fellow Quillers will choose their favorite episodes to forward and send to their friends and family or post on their social media, encouraging others to just add a new podcast series to their list that they might enjoy. It can be as simple as that. You know, I don't believe in hitting people over the head with any message. The world we live in is fully and completely operated on propaganda and media PR. I'm not suggesting you be deceitful or tell half-truths to accomplish anything by any means. I'm only saying you should be subtle about sharing the Quiller Nation with others when you need to be. And Dean is right. By merely suggesting the podcast as a new follow, by sharing a favorite episode link with others, that is a perfect way to share access to the knowledge without pushing the position. And I'd like to repeat that. We want to share access to the knowledge without pushing the position. Hey, by the way, the Shakespeare Authorship Roundtable has a season opener coming up October 19th on Shakespeare and religion. It features the very same Tom Woosnam named earlier in this episode as a member of the panel of others as well. And as I mentioned near the top of the episode, panel discussions tend to be very interesting and informative if they are conducted properly with good guests. So I encourage you to visit Shakespeare Authorship Roundtable, see what they're up to, and pay attention to their new season of presentations coming up, starting October 19th. And finally, a quick welcome to Romola. Romola. Welcome, Romola, to the Quiller Nation, as well as a reminder to you all that if you want to access the growing number of special bonus feature episodes in the library, you need to subscribe at our Patreon page at the proper level. Thank you to those of you who are our Patreon patrons. We truly need you to keep doing what you're doing so we can keep doing what we are doing. You are a blessing, and we thank you very much. Don't forget, another benefit of becoming a serial Quiller is you are then entered into our monthly drawing for the Quiller of the Month. And the winner is Teacher Mallory. Teacher Mallory, Jake will be sending you a special code to order a free item from the Quiller Swag Shop. So there you have it, fellow Quillers. Truly a special episode of lightning bolt moments for future episodes on their way. P.S. The next bonus feature will be my take on the current state of the Oxfordian movement and the future of the Shakespeare authorship mystery. Inside scoop from sources connected to the two major organizations with authorship themes will be shared with you. The status of future publications, plans to advance the movement in different ways, and more. Only at our Patreon page and only for serial Quillers and above, coming this month to the bonus feature library. And don't forget, there's already more than a dozen episodes in that library. And in order to unlock those, you must become a serial Quiller. One final note. Our favorite Portuguese engineer, Luís Sousa, has been teasing us with a potential third episode, but he is hesitant based on some of the responses he has received from members of what he likes to call the Oxfordian high priesthood of so-called experts, who act like Stratfordians, he says, to anyone from outside their revered ranks. Is this where we still are in this movement after 100 years? Infighting, backbiting? It just blows my mind that this is where we can still be within this movement. And if you're a part of the problem, stop being the problem. That's all I have to say on that right now. But there'll be more in my Oxfordian update special bonus feature episode coming later this month. Perhaps we can, though, apply some gentle pressure to Luís to help him understand that the Quiller Nation is not composed of those who would shut down others just because their narrative doesn't suit our own. We are open here in this forum to any and all theories, to any and all beliefs, so that we can examine and find and maybe mine a nugget or two from the hole that you have chosen so graciously to dig for us so that we don't have to do the digging. That's my attitude towards those who want to dive and dig into places that others do not. So send me an email, if you wish, that I might be able to forward to Luís to help encourage him to come on and do a third episode. We want to hear what you have to say. We trust that we can discern the aspects of your position that we agree or disagree with, and not judge your character just because we may disagree. This isn't politics. It's Shakespeare. We should. And here among the Quiller Nation, we absolutely do respect all those who are brave enough to keep asking questions.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a rating and review in your podcast player. For even more, visit our website, don'tquillthepodcast.com. There you can find official merchandise in our shop, as well as a link to our Patreon. This show is made possible by people like you. We hope you'll consider showing your support by becoming a monthly patron, where you'll receive bonus material and tons of exclusive perks. You can also join in the conversation on our Discord and by following us at Don't Quill the Pod on all social media. All of this can be found at don'tquillthepodcast.com, don'tquillthepodcast.com.
Dragon Wagon.